Hello, and welcome to Let Me Look That Up, the show where we use the internet to try to answer life's trivial questions. I'm Tristan, and I'll be your host for today's episode.
I'm Giovanni, and I've already spent some time looking some stuff up.
And I'm Allison, and I'm not allowed to look anything up for the duration of the podcast.
We've all been there before. You're hanging out with a couple of friends, and suddenly that random question pops up, like, what animal has the strongest punch?
And that's when somebody pulls out their phone to see if they can find an answer. And it's the mantis shrimp, by the way, the animal with the strongest punch.
Punch. That's what this show is all about. Just a couple of friends trying to find the answers to life's mysteries.
Finally, a friendly reminder. The three of us are at best hobbyists who are mostly relying on random stuff we found on the internet. And as we know, the internet is a lie. Deal with it. Giovanni, you and I were taking this deep dive into the meaning of time, and you shared this really particular theory with me. Would you like to share that theory with everyone else?
Yes. Okay, so when you say deep dive into the meaning of time, maybe what we actually meant was like the meaninglessness of time. I don't know. Anyway, let's focus on the theory that I was talking about rather than all these other existential things that were running through our heads when we were chatting.
I'm intrigued. I'm very excited about this. Take it away.
It's going places, right?
All right.
So the short story is I was in the Army. When I was in the Army, they do this whole sleep deprivation thing on purpose to kind of teach you how to be able to do work when you are sleep deprived. And one of the side effects of that is I have this really bad relationship with sleep. I also have a really bad relationship with eating because of basic training, but it's a whole different podcast. So this bad relationship with sleep, I struggle with sleep. I think I'm naturally a night owl anyway, which is kind of counterculture. The world loves early birds, and I'm a night owl. And then I also have this Army experience on top of it that really throws everything off. Anyway, all that to say, how did I get here? All that to say, I've taken some really thoughtful exploration of what time means, and I can't for the life of me figure out why we don't have a one world time zone. So my question to you guys is let's think through this real quick together. If we had a one world time zone, would that be good? Would that be bad? What do you guys think about one world time zones?
So just to define the terms, one world time zone, it's the same time everywhere.
The number we assign to the clock is the same everywhere at the same time.
Okay. Got it.
1 o'clock is 1 o'clock here. It's 1 o'clock in Europe, and it's 1 o'clock
right
on the other, in Japan.
So right now, if you're in New York and I say, hey, we're going to talk at 9 o'clock, what I actually mean is we're going to talk at noon for you in New York and me 9 o'clock here in California.
Right.
So eliminate that. We just say 9 o'clock, and 9 o'clock means the same thing everywhere.
Okay. So that being said, I'm going to kind of throw out the obvious thing so we can talk about it.
Yeah, let's do it.
The sun is in different places in different parts of the world.
Exactly. Okay. That makes a ton of sense to me. I understand why you went there.
Uh-huh.
I'm not going to answer anything yet. Just I understand it.
All right. So I feel like the decision we've made with having time zones is that the most important thing is that 8 a.m. has a particular relationship to when the sun comes up, not to what the rest of the world is doing.
Right. But why don't we call 8 a.m. boogly boo?
Right.
It's just a word, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah. I mean, it's a word. In this case,
it's a number.
Well, yeah, it's a number.
It's a number and a word. It's both. I feel like it can be more than one.
That's true.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think what you're getting at is noon means a very specific thing in relation to the sun, right? So 8 o'clock doesn't necessarily mean something super specific with the sun, but 8 or noon means something very specific with the sun.
Well, I think it's a little bit deeper than that because I mean, obviously, there are different things at different parts of the world. Folks at the very North Poles or the very South Poles have very different experiences to the day.
That's true.
But the majority of the population living somewhere in an area where there is a day and a night, and those happen regularly. That we have decided that we all want to experience daytime as one set of numbers and nighttime as another set of numbers, and that means it's different numbers in different parts of the world depending on whether it's day or night.
Right. So I think we're talking about the same thing of noon being the point where the sun's the highest in the sky, which even works in the Arctic, in the Arctic Circle in the middle of the summer when the sun never goes down. When it's at its highest point, it's still noon, and when it's at its lowest point, it's still midnight. Right?
Yeah, roughly.
Yeah.
With local variations. But the time zones get us on roughly the same page for numbers to sun ratio.
Right.
Yeah. And I think on a smaller scale, something that I've always thought about is daylight savings. I think that is something that exists in different parts of the world. It's not just an American thing.
This is going to be a 3-hour podcast.
It is. But the reason why I think this is on par with what you're saying is we are programmed because of our culture to do certain things at certain times of day. And then this daylight saving things happen where it's like, oh, we're going to change the time by an hour to match like the sunlight situation.
Right.
Which, in my opinion, is an archaic way of doing things. And there's like, in a world where everything is run by the internet and we can connect with people from this side of the world to the other side of the world, like, why do we need to change something by an hour where it's like, okay, great, it's this time of season, wake up an hour later.
Right. Or why can't we just change our like business hours? Like, hey, the bank opens at 5 a.m. right now and then 6 a.m. in the summer. Let's just do that.
Yeah, I mean, you're doing that anyway. Just
right.
But the time is changing,
you're
and
just
it's not
changing
consistent.
all of time instead.
So sometimes it's like, okay, between here and Arizona, like Arizona doesn't do that in parts of it. Like the Native American reservations don't do the time change. So you can be driving through Arizona and go through like 5 different time changes just because you're driving through these different areas. And that is very confusing to me.
It's so confusing.
And on top of that, no, I'm sorry, I've got more.
No, keep going.
There are random places, like in Canada, there is one little territory up there that is on a half-hour difference.
That's the half-hour off
Why
areas.
a half-hour time zone? Oh, that's gross.
Right.
Yeah.
I did one time. I was like, you know how everybody says like it's 5 o'clock somewhere. So I did this like little research into it, and it's like, is it always 5 o'clock somewhere? And I don't remember what time it was, but I found like 3 different places that were on a half-hour difference than everyone else.
So weird. So like, okay, I think we've touched on why like my sleep and time have such a relationship, because there's clearly this like circadian rhythm of like sunrise, sunset type of thing, right? And we like base our time zones based on when the sun is highest in the sky to some extent. And like, is that necessary to call that 12 noon? I don't think so. I think we call it noon. We could all agree that noon is when the sun is high in the sky. But noon could be 2, noon can be 12, noon could be 3. Like the number we apply to noon doesn't seem to matter to me, other than like we started off with it being 12. So like, why can't midnight be 4 p.m.? Like that seems okay with me. If we can detach this need for like 12 and midnight to be the same thing.
Yeah, because like the terms evening and night and afternoon and like all of that
doesn't have to change. We can keep that.
It's just based on the amount of sunlight in the sky
and when you want to sleep, like when your body naturally wants to lay down.
So I see your logic and I hate it. So let me
all right, so you're one of the people who hate it. I get it. I understand why.
I mean, and some of it might just be that I've like lived my whole life one way, and so that's the way that I'm used to. So I'm trying to come to it with an open mind.
Yeah.
I think,
thank you, Allison.
Yeah, I think part of the reason I dislike it is that I am assuming we will still be using a 24-hour system, and it's just going to be universally applied.
As long as we're on Earth, yes.
Okay.
Like the Earth daytime is like kind of this 24-hour thing.
So assuming that, like, power dynamics really comes into it, because I feel like if we were going to roll out the one world time zone, like there's going to be winners and losers. Like someone's morning is going to stay the same and everyone else is going to have to adjust as to like what 8 a.m. means. Well, and so rolling out that change, I feel like it's not good for the world, and like New York's probably going to win. You know,
somebody loses. I think the hardest part that I haven't actually solved is like, when does the day change? That part throws me off. Like when do we go from the 17th of November to the 18th of November? I don't know. I think that's the only part that I can't answer.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if we were trying to do it as fair as possible, there's UTC, which is the like.
Yeah, but then Britain wins. We don't like that.
Yeah. Well, see, that's the problem. That's the whole problem with this thing.
Let's let New Zealand have it or something. Like,
I don't think UTC is actually in Britain, though, right? It's just close to it.
No, it's Greenwich time. Like, it really is the.
Oh,
like,
is it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's right there. Yeah. Which, yes, I agree. There's some complications. Let's assume that the developed countries don't win and the undeveloped countries don't lose. We don't have a like northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere like dynamic we have with the map projections issue. If we could solve all of that, would you guys be on board or not on board with the idea of the numbers don't matter? We can just assign them to any time, and noon is still when the sun's the highest. Are you on board or are you off board? Like, I'm okay either way. Just let me know. Do we have 3 votes yes, or are we like a no?
I think, I mean, there's obviously the adjustment period of things are completely different now, but I think I'm on board. Having traveled to New Zealand myself, like it was so complicated to be like, okay, it's 5 o'clock here and it's a 17-hour difference. Unless it's daylight savings, then it might be like a 16-hour difference to people 18? In California. 18, yes.
I don't know.
The 17, I think it was 17 and 18 was yeah. But it was just like trying to figure out that whole difference of, and it's daylight savings here when it's not there, and there was like a 3-week, so the time difference changed, I think 3 times while I was out there because of the thing. And so if it was just like it's 5 o'clock here, it's 5 o'clock there. Now is the sun up? Not necessarily.
Doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, but
at least as far as Okay, so Tristan,
I'm on board.
Tristan's in.
But the one thing that might be a little bit weird is like knowing where the sun is in the sky.
Right.
Yeah.
Because like maybe there's a secondary term of like morning, evening, or morning, noon, evening, night that also like, hey, yeah, that does confuse things. I don't know if it makes it better or worse, but like it does add a level of confusion that we don't deal with right now. Allison, you in or you out?
I'm going to throw in the opposing vote because for 2 main reasons. Reason number 1, I don't like the idea that for some people it's going to be 5 and the day is going to change, or not 5. It's going to be noon. The sun's going to be high up in the air, and it was the 13th a minute ago, and now it's the 14th.
Right.
And that happened because the one world time zone switched over.
Right.
I think it's much more.
Think about that.
Yeah, I think it's much more intuitive to have the day change happen during the night,
at the middle of the night. Yeah.
And so I would rather have the rolling day change than to have like everyone trying to need to keep track of when the day change happens in their standard area, because that's different.
Allison, I respect your opinion. I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to change your mind.
Cheers. Looking forward to it.
Right. It won't be aggressive about it, but like this, like we're gonna wrestle with this again. I promise you.
And then like thing number 2 is like, so Tristan, like you were saying, it's like you're having to do the math of the 14 hours to 15, 16, whatever it was. And so you're having to do that math. But once you do that math, it's 5 a.m. there. I shouldn't call them because I know my family is not awake at 5 a.m.
Right.
I feel like you're just substituting one set of math for a different set of math,
Sure.
which is, okay, it's 5 p.m. here, it's 5 p.m. in New Zealand, but 5 p.m. for New Zealand, when do they sleep? When are people, can I call New Zealand at the Universal 5? I don't know. And then you'd have to do a whole different set of math to figure out where the sun is. I'd rather do the math with numbers.
Right. No,
That's
like
true.
I'm not like solving all the problems. I'm definitely introducing a whole nother set of problems that we don't have to deal with right now. So yeah, it's not a clean slate, that's for sure.
Yeah. I understand where you're coming from, but I'm going to be the opposing vote on this one.
It's people like you who keep me sane. Like if
Right.
like
It's fair.
I am on board for murdering daylight savings time, though.
Okay.
So, on that side, like that's a stupid thing. It shouldn't exist anymore. 100% down for that.
Gotcha.
If anything, like the one thing that should be fixed is the units of measurement that the world uses. Like, that's not going to confuse anybody. That's just going to help everyone.
If we're just gonna in a broader sense, can we just get on the metric system, please?
Yeah, if I get one universal stamp, I'm using it on the metric system, not on the clock.
I've thought about in my local, like, apparently in the United States, it's illegal to post street signs in metric. So I just want to go like add my own metric signs to all this. Please, let's just start using metric.
Yeah. And I'm saying that as someone who's very well trained on miles and has never been trained on kilometers. I'm willing to do that change in my head to like bring us around to the global system where everything's units of 10. Like, yeah.
There's reason for, okay. So actually that's a really, really great transition here is, Allison, earlier you mentioned, like, are we on the 24-hour time system? And then we're talking about the metric system. Like, this whole discussion of why is there a 24-hour clock or a 12-hour clock? Really just like, we're super basic when it comes to division. And we just started with like 1 and divided it in half and then kept going until we had a 12-hour clock. So there's really no reason why it needs to be 12 hours other than that's just the way the world spins around the sun, right? So we can go really, really deep into the arbitrariness of time measurement. So time's got to be some sort of thing. Anyway, we can talk about how arbitrary our measurement system is. And one fun way to think about this, guys, I have a silly question for you. Pendulum clocks do a good job of measuring time, but gravity is a thing and interferes with its accuracy over time. And there's a really, really fun way that Big Ben in London adjust the pendulum on Big Ben to make it more accurate. And I just this is really just a trivia question, guys. How do the folks in England adjust the swing rate on the pendulum on Big Ben? Any guesses?
Wild guess, because I'm not allowed to look everything up.
Right, exactly. Magnet. So describe this magnet situation for me. I love it. Like, what is the magnet situation?
So it's like one of those electromagnets that you can flip on and off, so they're just not like constantly on. And they're like, oh, we need to like slow or adjust the pendulum. And so then they the pendulum is whooshing and it whooshes to one side, and then they turn the magnet on. So it holds the pendulum there for a second until they adjust it, and then they let it go again, and it goes back to swinging.
I love it. Is this like, okay, so like in Doctor Who universe, is this like a thing that's been around since Big Ben was built, or is this a new invention?
No. We didn't understand the importance of consistency of time until trains were a thing, I think. And right. I feel like trains and electromagnets aren't that far off. Okay, so by the time we figured out Big Ben needed to be adjusted, we had electromagnets.
Okay, so it's a relatively new invention, i.e. around the same time of the steam engine. Okay, I love it. All right, Tristan, what do you got for? I know you can look it up, but please don't look it up yet. I have the answer, so you don't have to look this one up. What do you think?
All right, what do you think? I'm gonna play my wild card here, and dabble out of my given role for this episode. I think, much like a grandfather clock. A helicopter comes in with a key.
I'm so excited. Okay.
You know how you
much
have
like
the
a
key?
grandfather clock helicopter. No, I don't get it.
No, with the key, with the grandfather clock, you have the key and you twist the thing. So a helicopter comes in with a big key type thing and goes into Big Ben and has a turning mechanism.
Does the helicopter have to do some wild stunt flying to go on its side to actually get the key to turn?
No, it's got a mechanism that they just flip a switch and it turns it to a certain amount, and then they back out.
Nice.
I got you. Okay, so you think there's springs and pendulums involved with Big Ben?
Yeah.
Okay.
So side note, I also was struck by the mental image of someone adjusting their grandfather clock with a drone instead of just doing it with a hand.
Right.
So that was another delightful mental image that I just wanted to share.
So good.
Giovanni, what's the truth?
The truth is they use copper pennies. So they add weight to the pendulum, like above or below, like the balance point, to speed up or slow down the pendulum by just taping. Well, but probably glue. They tape pennies to the pendulum to adjust its like mass.
Make it a little heavier, okay,
right.
So,
or
like,
lighter,
guys,
I guess.
Guys, time is nothing. It means nothing. Time is pennies on the bottom of a swingy thing.
Do they use pennies or do they use pence?
I mean, it said pennies. I mean, like the old copper. We get the American English gets the term penny from.
Okay,
from
England
English,
also has penny.
So, like,
I just love the idea of them like calling up an American bank and being like, "We need to adjust Big Ben. Can you send us $2 in pennies?"
No,
those pennies that you aren't using.
Like pre-modern British currency used pennies. Like we got that from them.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I have to admit that my original, more logical thought was they probably adjust the weight somehow.
Yeah.
But now I'm just thinking about like the giant pendulum swinging
like it's got to be huge, right?
And they've got like ready and go.
Oh yeah. Do they do it
because they can't
mid-swing,
stop
or do
it?
They get a darts champion. This is why you have a darts champion. You lob the penny at Big Ben.
So like to get really into like Great Britain politics, do they use Scotch tape to weigh to get the penny on? Like what is the role of Ireland and Scotland in weighing down the pennies?
Now I'm kind of concerned that Scotch tape is a slur, so I don't want to go too much further down then. But
yeah, I mean, like, the answer to that question is yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But
that
no,
would
but
explain
yes.
why they have like the plaid on the.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
You know how we have Polish jokes in modern? Well, at least when I was growing up, we had Polish jokes. Like the Scotch joke was basically the same thing. So tape that wasn't super good was Scotch. Yeah, like we should change the name of Scotch tape.
Now I understand why they call it sellotape.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
might have to do some vocabulary adjustment.
Tristan, is sellotape and Scotch tape the same thing?
I always thought that they were.
Like
but
just
maybe
because they're
not.
clear plasticky type stuff doesn't mean they're necessarily like tape. The tape world is
It
almost
could
as
be.
confusing as time.
Yeah.
Tape and time, life's greatest mysteries.
Oh, okay, guys. So we've covered some topics here.
Tristan, did I blow your mind? Like, did I go too far?
My brain's a little broken right now.
Yeah. That was
What
a
you
lot.
said, like when we were talking before the podcast, like the things that you were saying were like making me think. But now I'm just like, what do I even say? So you have this theory that you would like the world to have a one-time
zone. Yeah.
which it's kind of a 1.5 time zone because it does switch around at some point.
Right.
But time is just kind of this arbitrary thing that can be changed by putting pennies on a pendulum.
I mean, like time or the measurement of time. Yeah, it's confusing. Allison, you were saying that like Einstein said that time was relative. So like there's got to, yes, it's not just.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't even gotten into like time on other planets and
Right.
you know, time is tied on Earth. Our passing of time, I would argue, is primarily governed by sun and the seasons. And then we've attached these numbers to it to try to like standardize it.
I would like to tie it back to our sleep cycle too. Like the thing that started me down this path was sleep. So like our sleep is a huge part of why time matters to us.
Mm-hmm. And we say that we need 8 hours of sleep.
What's an hour? Yes. What is an hour? All right, Tristan, you were saying something important, I'm sure.
I mean, we could probably just keep going on and on of like, we're judging this based off of being in an area that has like a relatively normal daylight and nighttime rotation. But then there are the people who have just like, it's always night for 3 months out of the year, or it's always daytime. So for them, they're already dealing with crazy rotations that we don't even understand. And I mean, is time different at the poles of the world than they are in the where anyway,
yeah.
there are so many layers of what we could be diving into here. Did I miss anything?
Of all the things we could dive into, I really want to know about the Scotch tape question.
That is a good thing. That is a topic of interest to me, because I've always wondered it. I've heard it referred to as sellotape. And I was like, what's sellotape? And then realized it was basically just what we call Scotch tape.
Yeah. Is it the same, or is it like, if you are a gaffer, there's a big difference between
Yeah.
And while you're looking that up, could you also look up how they actually attach the things to Big Ben? Like, is tape involved at all?
Yeah.
Is it glue? Like
does somebody have a hot glue gun? They're like,
right.
Like
Yeah.
that's the sound. That's the sound of the hot glue going on to the pendulum as it swings by. Just so everybody knows.
any adhesive also has weight, so they'd also have to compensate for that. So,
or is there like this little like cup space that they've added to the bottom of the pendulum that you just drop a penny in?
A penny cup?
And they stand there and just kind of like toss them in
until they get one.
All right.
The winner gets the Christmas goose or something like that.
I'm going to look into these questions for us. So while I'm doing that, Giovanni, do you want to talk about how we can support the show?
Yeah, let's talk about how we can support the show. Let's do it. If you're listening to the show and you want to support the team, there are 3 main ways you can do it. Number 1, tell a friend. Number 2, tell a stranger. And number 3, buy us a coffee. Hey, Tristan, I think last week we talked about how if you did one of those 3 things, you'd become a official Lemmy supporter of the show.
Yeah, I think everyone is kind of an unofficial Lemmy, but that's how you become, like, we should make badges that are like, I'm a Lemmy.
Right. Are you like culturally a Lemmy? Yes, obviously.
Right.
But to get your official card-carrying Lemmy badge, that's one of the ways you do. Okay, so the 3 ways. Tell a friend, tell a stranger, buy us a coffee. Tell a friend. That's the easiest, I think, is just mention it to somebody. Hey, have you heard? Let me look that up.
In fact, I had a friend recently tell me about Let Me Look That Up. His name was Giovanni.
Was that when we were trying to pick a time to record?
No, actually, you sent me a text.
Oh yeah, no, it was on Facebook. It was Facebook. I was trying to repost one of our Facebook posts, and I just ended up messaging it to you.
Just sent it straight to me.
Yeah, so guys, it turns out it's really easy to send a link to Let Me Look That Up to your friends on Facebook Messenger. Tell a stranger is a little bit more difficult. The weird way to do it is just on the street, tell somebody about it. Just, hey dude.
Yeah, just start walking down the street and say, LML to you.
Oh, yeah. That works. Maybe get a sandwich board that you can wear, or one of those spinny signs. If somebody does a spinny sign for us, I will buy you a coffee. Okay, so tell a stranger would actually just be to go ahead and post a review on one of the review aggregators. So Facebook or on Apple Podcast or whatever podcatcher you use. If you want to go find a Yelp way to review us, we wouldn't stop you. You may want to let us know that you did that because we don't monitor Yelp.
Some apps don't let you leave a review, but you can, like, on Spotify, I know they just added that you can like a podcast.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that still helps the algorithm
recommend it
to strangers.
Yeah. And then the third way I mentioned, I would buy you a coffee if you spun some signs for us. You can buy us a coffee because basically podcasting is the internet equivalent of spinning signs. No, that's not true.
Maybe the audio equivalent of spinning signs.
Oh, yeah. The audio equivalent of spinning signs. So you can go to buymeacoffee.com/letmelookthatup, and you can either give us a one-time donation, which we would love, or you can do a monthly subscription, which would just like send us over the moon.
Yeah, right now we're trying to get to a point where it would be feasible for us to actually do a weekly release, but we need your help to get there.
Yes, weekly releases would be so much fun. All right, so let's tell a friend. You can do that on your own time. Number 2, tell a stranger. Let's highlight somebody who's told a stranger.
Yeah, we recently had a Lemmy leave us a review on Podcast Addict. His name is Tall Terrell, and he left us 5 stars.
That's most stars.
That's the most stars.
So thank you, Tall Terrell.
5 out of 5. There's no more stars than that. we should rename the Seven Sisters to the Five Sisters.
Because that's the most stars.
Because that's the most stars. Tall Terrell said, a show that reminds me of the many conversations I had around the table with friends. It's a solid combination of fun and thought.
That's kind of our brand, fun and thought.
Fun? It definitely is. And you know what? That's the whole purpose of this show. That's what we set out to accomplish. And so if you guys are seeing that, then that means we're doing our job.
Right. It wasn't like the origin of the podcast idea was literally you sitting around a table with your friends and somebody said, hey, maybe we should be recording this?
Pretty much. Yeah. I mean, these are regular conversations that I had. And then I was like, you know what? This is very entertaining. What if other people listen to it?
Yes. Perfect. Okay. Thank you, Tall Terrell. We appreciate every single one of those stars you gave us.
Giovanni, number 3 is buy us a coffee. Has anybody bought us a coffee recently?
Step 3, buy us a coffee. Yes, we've had a few coffees purchased recently. A Lemmy by the name of Marquita bought us 3 coffees. I think that's 1 coffee for you, 1 coffee for me. And do we split the third?
Let's give it to Justin.
Justin, it seems reasonable. All right, so Marquita bought 3 coffees, and she says, I love your show, although I might be a bit biased.
Well, we hope that all of our Lemmies are a little biased about how much they like our show.
Yeah, everybody's biased in our favor, right? In the world of Let Me Look That Up, we view the world through a lens of everybody's bias towards us. Okay, so yeah, that's the 3 ways. Feel free to do those things. We look forward to coffee and reviews from you guys.
All right, so I found some answers for our questions. Which one do you want to start with?
Pennies on Big Ben.
Yeah, let's start with a time question.
Okay, with a more relevant question.
Yes.
So Big Ben has been using pennies for over 150 years, which is crazy to on the pendulum. And apparently in the 2012 Olympics, they replaced all the old pennies with a 5-pound piece, which was roughly the same weight. So
they made change. They made change for Big Ben.
They did.
Do you guys think those are worth 1 cent by the time they pulled them off of Big Ben? Like, no. Those are collector's items now.
Right? Like these were the pennies that were on Big Ben. And they've been doing it for 150 years. Yeah. So that's 150 years worth of pennies.
And why during the Olympics why was that the time where they went, it's time to change this out?
Well, that was the year the Olympics were in London, right? So it was probably just like hey,
Allison, obviously it was a modernization project. They had funds to modernize, so they made change.
Shoot, I feel like it's like, oh shoot, we've got company coming over, quick, get rid of all these pennies, replace it with a 5-pence piece. Like,
so Tristan,
the world is watching.
Yeah, the world is watching. Tristan, how do they attach them?
It's kind of cool, but not as exciting as we thought.
Okay, all right.
Basically, the pendulum one is much smaller than what we were imagining.
Okay.
I think we were imagining, again, like a grandfather clock, like a giant pendulum going back and forth. There is a machine that has a smaller pendulum, and there's just kind of this round piece that's in the middle of it. And a guy just kind of walks over and places a penny on top of like the joint, basically. And that's it.
I don't understand. So I'm imagining a pendulum that is like vertical, like hanging down, and you're saying it's not hanging down?
Oh, so it is hanging down.
Yeah.
But there's like a joint piece from where like the machine part and then like the weight part.
Okay, so there's a little small horizontal piece there.
There's a joint that's in I'm showing you with my hands, but you can't. There's a joint there that like
creates a little small horizontal surface.
It creates a surface that they just place it on. There's a video that I watched to find this answer.
All right, let's put that video in like our Instagram or something.
We'll link that so people can see what's going on.
Excellent.
And then to sellotape.
All right,
I guess
we're gonna get like political here now.
Yeah, there is a moment that we have to acknowledge.
Guys,
here.
Let's get serious.
First of all, sellotape and what we call Scotch tape is the same thing.
Okay, it is the same thing.
Sellotape is just what they refer to as tape that is made from cellophane. But I think it is a little bit broader of a term for the areas that use it. So it could be like packaging tape is also a cello tape.
Yeah.
Okay.
But 3M, I'm calling people out. 3M, the company here in the States, has Scotch tape, and it is identical to what we call cello tape, or what others call cello tape. Also, what's really confusing is cello tape is spelt with an S, but then cellophane is spelled with a C.
Yeah.
I would not have gotten that right on a spelling bee.
So that's weird. And to just make sure that we finish it off, Scotch tape it did start out as a slur.
Yeah.
Scotch this was an article from the New York Times.
You're canceled, 3M. Canceled.
From the New York Times. They said that back in the oldie days that Scotch was used as a term to mean cheap. So
not cool.
I think I'm going to try to start calling it cello tape. It's probably going to go poorly because I have many years of thinking about it the other way, much like I do the concept of time. Tying it together.
Good job, Allison.
There we have it.
Yeah.
So, Giovanni, do you want to give us a moment and tell us, I guess, what we should have learned? Was there something that we should have learned?
Like, should have learned is that, like, the measurement of time is weird. That our assignment of numbers to time is kind of arbitrary. What really matters from a like circadian human life rhythm is that like when the sun's high in the sky, we're awake. When the sun's low, we're sleepy. Which even that, like, we could discuss that more. Like there's like a natural desire to take an afternoon nap. Way to go, Spain.
Oh man, we didn't even get into like the way our brains interact with time.
Light and time and like what all that means. But if we weren't on Earth, the 24-hour day would not make as much sense as it does for us here on Earth. I think that's what we learned. And that Giovanni specifically thinks that we can assign any number to noon and he would be fine.
Yes, but Allison would not.
Allison would not be fine. Yeah, which she has some good points. Like, hey, somebody's got to lose, and picking the loser is always the hard part, right?
Yeah. And we always have to do math.
Yeah,
and
no matter what we do, figuring out when somebody's asleep is always going to be a problem.
But we can all agree that daylight savings should come to an end.
Yeah, let's get rid of that. Or like keep it always. I'm okay with either. I think it should go away, but I'm okay with keeping it always as well. Like both are like the same thing for me.
There should just be like the time shouldn't change in the spring and the fall.
Right.
Yeah.
Or the autumn and the
that's what we should have learned. What else did we learn?
We learned that they put pennies on the pendulum of Big Ben.
Right.
They don't attach
there's a
them.
tragic lack of electromagnets.
No. It's a 5 pence, isn't it?
Well, there's 1 5-pound piece.
5 pound. Yeah.
That's on there, and that's not weight. That's
right. It's not 5 pounds. It's 5 pound.
Money pound, not weight pound. Okay.
And
this is why we need that metric system.
There are also pennies since then. So it's like they put the 5 pound, and then I'm assuming that they're continuing to put pennies on top of that.
And then we learned that gravity holds it on there. It does. Like
gravity.
You don't have to tape it on.
Yeah. So and it doesn't have like a huge swing. It's just kind of like a very subtle little thing. Kind of, I'm going off topic for a second here. You know, when you were a kid, those playground things where it was like the thing that you stand on that's on a pole, and you could just kind of like swing. Doesn't it not? No.
The knockoff swings. Like it's like a swing, but it's a pole with like a little.
It's a pole that you with a platform that you stand on.
They looked at a tire swing and went, "We need to make this more safe."
Yeah.
And then got that.
Okay, gotcha.
That's basically what they put the pennies on.
Gotcha. Oh, that is the best description so far. Like totally get you down.
Yeah.
It's like a barbell that like one end is held onto and the other end is down. Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we learned that cello tape and Scotch tape are the same, but we should all be calling it cello tape.
Right. Because the Scotch are fine people. Like they're great. We don't need to dig at them.
And their whiskey is wonderful.
Yeah, Scotch is great.
Yeah.
And
It's
we
true.
love plaid. Plaid's also great. But wait, there's more. The learning doesn't stop just because we've covered the topic for the day. You Limmies have done the real work of looking things up, and we wanted to share one with you. Here's listener lookups.
Actually, Giovanni, nobody did the hard work this week.
Yikes!
Yeah, so as we've said before, this show thrives on having pedantic listeners.
Tristan, are we too good at our jobs? Are we like perfect?
I always strive to be a better Limmy,
Right?
and I know that I've said some things on this podcast that are very inaccurate.
Say it isn't so.
So I would love it if there's someone out there that has that information, maybe is an expert themselves, or takes the time to look it up after they hear what we're talking about, and they find out something that's more accurate than what we've said. I mean, that would be great.
You know, I am thinking of a very specific episode where we definitely got a few things wrong. And I know somebody talked to you offline about how painful that was for them to listen. So yeah, if you feel that pain of like, wow, Giovanni, or wow, Justin, yeah, just write in. You can send us an email. You can go to our webpage and leave a lookup. If you want to be anonymous during the lookup, we're more than happy to accommodate that. Just leave a note in the message so that you don't want us to use names. But please leave us your lookups.
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be about anything that we've talked about. It could be something that just gets sparked by the conversation, or a fun fact that you know that you really want us to know.
Right. If you're super passionate about bees and you just have like too much bee knowledge sitting around in your brain,
Yeah,
share it with us.
please let us know about the bees.
Please, the bees. All right. Okay. So that's our listener lookups for the day.
So again, join the conversation. As Giovanni said, you can hit us up on social media, or there's a form on our website that you can fill out to send us your lookups.
You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Let Me Look That Up, or on Facebook at Let Me Look That Up Pod. By the way, you can totally leave a review on Facebook or leave a lookup, or I think you can even listen to the episode on Facebook these days if you have the app on your phone.
Yeah.
Again, if you like the show, subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review. If you enjoy listening to us looking that up, you can support the show at buymeacoffee.com/letmelookthatup.
All our links are in the description or on the website, letmelookthatup.com.
I'm Tristan.
I'm your Bisky boy, Giovanni.
And I'm Allison.
Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you next time on Let Me Look That Up.